Hello,
Hey,
everybody.
everybody.
Yay. Happy Wednesday.
Hello, everyone. So, we are so happy that you could join us today. In case you are new around here, I'm Hillary Buchholz, and I'm here with Patty Quinn.
Hello.
And we are the co founders of We Heart Hounds, but we're also very excited because we have a special guest with us here today.
Yay. One of our all-time absolute favorite guests in the whole wide world, Johnna Devereaux. Oh, look. I'm so happy to have you here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. I always have so much fun with you guys.
Oh, thanks. We
our
have a
pleasure
blast.
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So if you aren't familiar with Johnna, and for shame, because she is one of our all-time regulars here that we love having at We Heart Hounds. She is a clinical pet nutritionist with Bow Wow Labs, and they are the makers of a pet safety device for all those puppies out there that love chewing on bully sticks. There you go, right there, the bully buddy. And then, yeah, really amazing. Go out and grab one. They're really amazing. And we can talk about that a little bit later, I think, today too. And then she also, because that just isn't enough, she's just super spectacular. She also is the founder of a wonderful holistic pet boutique in Rhode Island called Fetch RI. So we're so happy to have you here. Thanks again for being with us.
Yeah, again, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, ours too.
So we had recently asked our audience to submit their questions for Johnna about like pet nutrition and some of those questions that she is obviously an expert in. But if you're watching this on a replay or you're watching this now as we're live, please feel free to type in your comments as well. But we will jump right into some of those questions that we got earlier. So I'm going to read the first one. The first question is from Megan, who asks, I have a 9-year-old Labrador. My dog always acts like she's hungry and she's overweight. What can I do to help her lose weight? I'm not even sure how much dog food she should be getting.
Okay, so that's a really great question, and it's a really common question, and it is a multi-layered question, which in the world of nutrition, most things are not just cut and dry. So yeah. I'm going to try to approach it from a few different angles and hope that she gets some value out of it. So the first thing that I would do if you have a dog that is overweight and you have been trying to get the dog to lose weight and they haven't been able to, please make an appointment with your veterinarian and make certain that there's no issues with their thyroid. Hypothyroid dogs do have issues losing weight. So that would be the first thing that I do, is just make certain that medically everything is okay with your dog. Megan, the second thing that I would do is look at the food that you're feeding. I'm a big fan of timed feeding, not free feeding. If you free feed, that obviously gives an opportunity for your dog to eat more. And most times when people free feed, they also don't necessarily measure out the food because they don't know when the dog's going to eat. So get a measuring cup. Look on the back of your food bag. I'm assuming you're feeding kibble. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But even if you're not feeding kibble, always look at the food bag as an initial guide for the amount of food that you should be feeding. And I say guide because every dog is an individual. They all have individual metabolic needs. Some dogs exercise more, some dogs exercise less. So it is literally just a starting point, and you have to kind of sometimes play around to determine what is the right amount for your dog. You don't really want them losing more than 1% of their body weight per week, so keep that in mind. And if your dog is spayed or neutered, you want to reduce the amount of the recommendation for the feeding guidelines per day by 25%. So most people don't think that. And so we think we're feeding accordingly and appropriately per the bag, but we're actually overfeeding our dog. So those would be the first two things. Regarding your pup feeling that it is always hungry, right, and ravenous. One of the ways that you can help satiate your pet is if you're feeding kibble and you're doing timed feeding, you can add a little bit of water to the food. That will help to satiate them. It's also going to help them to assimilate the nutrients from the food and prevent dehydration, because the body isn't taking moisture from the skin to then rehydrate that food. So putting water in at the time the food is being consumed is a really great way to solve a lot of issues and also help your dog feel more full. Also think about, what are you giving your dog around the rest of the day? A lot of us just think, wow, well, I'm feeding them a certain amount, and then we forget that we give them a treat when they go potty, a treat when they come in from a walk, a treat when we're on our walk. So think about everything that's going in your dog's mouth in a given day and the total caloric, and factor that into the total calories that they're getting for the day. If your dog, if you're feeding treats barely, if you're doing everything I just stated and your dog is still really hungry and acting ravenous, there is kind of a few days that it's going to take their bodies to adapt. It's very similar to a human, right? If we go on a diet and we're trying to restrict our calories, we are ravenous for the first few days. And then after 4 or 5 days, suddenly you're like, I'm not as hungry as I was. So understand there is going to be the time delay where their body will adapt. And in that time, feel free to give them some low starch vegetables and low sugar. So that's why I'm not saying fruit. So do like organic green beans or some cucumbers, things that are high in water, something that's just going to fill their belly. We're really not using these vegetables for nutritional value. We're really just using them to kind of fill up space in the belly. So you don't have to worry about pureeing them at that point. You can give it to them right out of the bag. Stay away from carrots. Those are high starch. Those are going to be higher carbohydrate, and carbohydrates actually do contribute to weight gain in dogs. So my last point would be, look at your food. Make certain that your food that you're feeding is a high enough protein and that the protein is actually coming from animal meat and animal protein. And that's going to help your dog automatically begin to lose weight. So if you have a dog food that maybe only has like 24% protein and you're seeing a lot of that is coming from legumes and not animal meat, look towards a food that has more between 30 to 40% protein with the first ingredients coming from animal meat. And that will instantly help your dog lose weight.
Okay, perfect.
So there's a whole bunch to that one.
Yeah. And I think too, just as past Beagle owners, and maybe with Bassett's, Hillary, I don't know, we haven't had Bassett's, but they're always food motivated. They're always even when they're not hungry, they're definitely food motivated. Like you put food in front of them and they're going to gobble it up, whether they're hungry or not, or they're going to go after something on a walk, whether they're hungry or not. So I think there's also, you kind of just have to get to know your pup and realize that, they just may always be wanting food. So no matter what.
I joke all the time because I have Diego and Lola, and I am a person that loves food. And Diego is very much like me. I have a hard time getting full, as does Diego. Lola, on the other hand, can turn up food like my husband can. And I'm like, I don't understand this. But in reality, sometimes it takes time, actually every time, right? If they're eating and they eat their food in 3 minutes, it's not, that signal is not going to be sent yet that I'm full.
Right.
If you wait 20 minutes, and this is what I do with Diego, because sometimes we may exercise more. And so I'll give him his normal quantity of food and I'll gauge him to see, is he still hungry? And I don't gauge that if he licks the bowl clean and then goes back 2 seconds later. I make him wait. And we wait between 20 to 30 minutes. At 20 to 30 minutes, if he's still going to that bowl, I know his caloric intake for that day needs to be higher, and I give him additional food. So you really do, hopefully you can have the time to kind of look and observe, but it really is something that's on an individual basis for that animal. And even, as I just mentioned, on a day-by-day basis and meal by meal basis, depending on what you've done that day.
Right. And not to belabor the point, because we do have some other questions, but you might also just have a fast eater, right? And they may look like they're starving or hungry, but that's just a habit of how they're eating, and just getting a slow feeder or a snuffle toy or something where you can kind of hide treats or just give them little bits of, not treats, kibble. You could hide their food or whatever, allow them to eat a little slower. It could just be that you're reading into their behavior of eating quickly.
And I do say adding water is like one of the best things that you can do from, I think, from a nutritional standpoint, as well as it will help satiate them, and it will inherently slow their eating down. Yeah. So we're talking about, when I say water, we're not flooding the food. You're looking at 30% to whatever the dry content is. So if you determine based on the back of the bag, and if they're spay or neutered, if that's, say it's a cup for the day, and we're kind of gauging this, you would add 1/3 cup water. You don't let it get mushy. You add the food in the bowl, you put the water in the bowl, and just put the bowl down. And that will inherently help to slow them down as well. So,
Okay.
and it's
Great
water
tips.
is so important that I
Yeah.
really can't stress it enough to please add that anyway.
No, that's great. Great tips. So we've got, hi Doralba. She's here. She's like, I'm a little late, but I would like to know more about food allergies. I have a male pit bull with severe allergies. We did the test and it's mostly environmental, but also some food. He eats a food that was recommended, but now the vet is asking to see if the food gives him an allergy. He's also on prednisone and cephalon, to help with his allergies, I'm sure, the symptoms.
So I have two pitties, and Diego is the reason that I became a canine nutritionist. And he also had a lot of reactions to food. So I completely appreciate where you're coming from and the battle that you were going through, because it is heartbreaking, because you try to do everything you can. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. With that said, it has been proven that blood serology tests are not an accurate indicator of food-borne allergens. They are 100% accurate for environmental allergens. So not knowing the type of test, just kind of keep that in mind. One of the things that you can do is an elimination diet. That's one of the best ways to really start determining what is an aggravator and a potential trigger to your dogs for a histamine response. Not knowing how big your dog is or what you're feeding, it's really hard with kibble, because kibble has so many ingredients in it that we all assume that it's a protein. But I find that oftentimes allergic responses are happening from secondary ingredients, which when you think about it, makes sense. If you have a dog that's allergic to dandelions and there's dandelions in the food, if we don't make that connection, then that's something that is potentially giving a response. So, it might be in your best interest to really kind of look for a very short term to see, two things: a really high quality, limited ingredient dry food that, when I say limited ingredient, has like 10 ingredients or less, not including the vitamin pack. That's going to be separate. So that if your dog has a reaction, you at least know it's one of those 10 ingredients, and you can start to kind of focus in and remove it. And when I say high quality, that is really important. I don't want to get into all of the different degrees of ingredients that go into dog food, but some of them are horrendous. And so, we think when a bag of food says it has chicken in it, that it's the type of chicken we're buying from the grocery store, when in fact it can be chicken that came off of chicken that had tumors. It can be one that was euthanized. It can be one that was highly diseased. So when I say quality, it's really about that. So think about, when you're looking at a bag of food, what the cost is and how does that transfer to what we're buying at the grocery store. If we can't buy chicken breast for less than $3.99 a pound, it's kind of unrealistic to think that we can get a $30 bag of food that's going to last us 30 days that has chicken that is of high quality. So at least in the short term, while you're trying to get your baby over that hump, if you can afford it, I would say try to get a higher quality, limited ingredient dry food. In addition to that, there are some supplements that you can add that really help with the immune system and help with histamine response. One of them is an herb that I'm a big fan of called nettle. Now, stinging nettle is something that you would want to check and make certain that that is not something he's allergic to on your environmental test. Make sure that they've tested for that. But that is something that you can give him that really has been helpful for a lot of dogs. You can also get quercetin. It's Quercitin. Studies have actually been showing that also is going to help with the histamine response. And so sometimes, individually nettle isn't enough and quercetin isn't enough, but combined, they really do help the body. And then finally, I'm going to recommend that you think about the microbiome. There's so much research occurring right now with our gut microbiome and how it relates to allergies and our health. And they're calling it our second brain. It's our innate immune system. It's just such an immense area of studies and research that we're still working on. But I will tell you that if you can diversify the bacteria in the microbiome, you're going to really help your dog be healthier and have a different type of immune response. So I would recommend you do that through like colostrum, through raw goat milk, through a really great probiotic, potentially with a prebiotic. So that I know there's a lot there, and I'm sorry, I wish I could do like a one-on-one with you, but those are going to be kind of the most generalized answers that I can give you without knowing your dog's individual case. But hopefully that helps you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, those are all really, really great tips. So thank you. Thanks, Johnna.
So I have another question here. So this is from April, and she says, sometimes my dog eats grass when her stomach is upset. Why does she do this? And then Christy, also kind of along that same line, mentioned, I'd like to learn more about why dogs eat grass. And I've also had one that ate dirt. Is this something missing from their diet?
Okay. Really great question. And in fact, while I was on my walk with Diego and Lola this morning, Diego and Lola were both munching on grass. And I encourage it as long as the grass that they are chewing on has not been chemically treated, is not next to a roadway, because you have all the environmental pollutants and toxins that come from cars and exhaust and whatnot. But if you have a yard or a field or somewhere that you can take them and they want to eat some grass, let them chow down. There's 3 main reasons that dogs eat grass. One is because there's chlorophyll and nutrients in the blades of grass. You'll commonly notice that dogs only want to eat new growth on the blades. Normally in the spring, that's when they chow down because it's all brand new. But old grass, they have no interest in, right? They're looking for new growth and nutrients. So sometimes it's just because they naturally and instinctively understand that there's something in that plant that's going to be helpful to them, like chlorophyll and whatnot. Secondly, dogs eat grass, as we all know, if they aren't feeling well. They use it to purge. So if your dog has eaten something that isn't making it feel well, again, instincts alone tell them that when we eat grass, it can actually help for them to vomit up whatever is causing them tummy troubles. And then finally, I know that dogs use grass to help clean out their colon. If you think about it, dogs would be eating naturally prey. And prey has fur on it. And fur is like a natural brush that would actually clean out their large intestines and kind of clean it out. Well, we've taken that out of their diet. And so grass also creates that type of roughage and cleans it out, which is why you see it come out as it went in. So those are the 3 reasons that they would eat grass. And again, I can tell with my dogs the difference. If my dog goes out and eats grass, it sounds so silly, but I know if they're eating it because they've had something that isn't making them feel well versus if they're eating it because they want some nutritional value. I call it salad. I said, let's go get some salad versus like, there's just a difference that I can tell.
Yeah.
So I would say just be mindful of that. And if your dog does throw up after eating grass, the best thing that you can do is identify what's happened in the last 24 hours. Yeah. What did he eat differently? Where was he or her differently? Did we go on a walk when it was 100 degrees out? Like try to find out the cause of the tummy ache so that you can prevent it from happening in the future. I know it's not always realistic to think that we can predict the future, but I'm a big advocate of really kind of trying to learn by observation so that we can minimize potential tummy distress in the future. The second part of that is, what do you do when your dog has an upset stomach? So I'm going to assume that you're talking about that your dog is having diarrhea. Or if they're vomiting. So 2 different things. If they're just having diarrhea and this is not chronic, it's kind of a quick onset. One of the things that I always recommend is allow your dog to fast for 18 hours. The body knows that if there is some type of invader that is in the body that is not making it feel good, the body's job is to eliminate it as fast as possible to eradicate it from the body. So let the body do that. If you decide, or if you are nervous, I hear this all the time, but my dog's going to be hungry. Okay, so let's think about this. Your dog is having diarrhea, potentially vomiting, and you're going to put more food in it. Now you're asking the body, rather than healing from a metabolic standpoint, you're asking the body instead to digest. So what you're doing is you're delaying the healing process. So by letting them fast for 18 hours, you're actually letting the body focus on healing. And once you've gone through that 18-hour process, I'm a big fan of getting some hard-boiled eggs. Eggs are the most biologically available protein. It is the easiest to digest. So as your dog is eating the hard-boiled egg, even though the body's working at digesting, it's not working hard to digest it because it's so easy for the body to assimilate the nutrients. So that's what I would recommend. And, you could do, depending on the size of the dog, you do that for, if it's a 10-pound dog, you do half of a hard-boiled egg. If it's a 50-pound dog, you do like an egg and a half. Do that for like the first meal. And by the second meal, hopefully at this point, the diarrhea has stopped, right? And so you aren't seeing anything. And again, just because your dog isn't evacuating after it has had diarrhea doesn't mean that something's wrong. It means there's no food in it to evacuate, right? So you have to just think that through. It's not a new problem that you have to deal with. And then you slowly start to transition in their normal food. And slowly, of course, you don't go from, the very next day giving them their normal amount of food. You just want to make certain that there isn't an offender in the food that they're getting potentially.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. That's really helpful. So Christy says, what are your thoughts on some of the exotic protein-based foods that are available now, like kangaroo, bison, venison, rabbit, etc.? Are they better for a reasonably healthy dog than normal beef, chicken, turkey, fish-based foods? Are single-sourced proteins better?
So I think the answer that I'd like to give is that protein rotation is extremely important. Every protein has a different amino acid profile. And so by providing different protein sources, you're just giving your dog different nutrients at different levels and helping to support an even healthier body. If we think about, again, how our dogs would naturally eat out in the wild, they wouldn't go out and eat a squirrel every day. They'd eat a squirrel and then maybe a chipmunk and then maybe a frog and then maybe a bird and then maybe a rabbit. And then maybe if there were multiple, they'd get deer. So we really want to just think about the protein rotation. If you have a human, I say this all the time, if you have a human that eats chicken 365 days a year, they may have an iron deficiency. So you just really want to incorporate as many proteins as you can. But again, I implore you, if you're looking at a kibble-based food, because that's where a lot of these are coming from, look at the secondary ingredients. Don't just say, I want to introduce venison or lamb or kangaroo into my dog's diet, and then potentially sacrifice their health because some of the secondary ingredients are not something that a dog should be eating. So you have to kind of weigh the advantages to the disadvantages and then make that choice as your dog's advocate. And I do just want to backtrack for 1 second. I realized while you were asking this question that I didn't answer about soil. So I do just want to touch on that because some dogs lick soil, and when they're licking soil, it is oftentimes a sign that there's a mineral deficiency. There is also soil-based probiotics. So if you see that your dog is going after soil, I would say really look at adding like a whole food canine formulated multivitamin, and then also adding a canine formulated probiotic, because that would really help them. Again, and the only reason why I say don't necessarily let them lick soil is because we now know, right, that there are a lot of chemicals, there are a lot of fertilizers, there are a lot of things soil. And so we just want to make certain that we're providing whatever we can to our dog in the most healthy way possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we have another question here from Donna. She has a question about her dog's allergies, and she says, my dog's eyes always water this time of year from allergies. Are there food or supplements that could help?
So I'm not going to disagree that they're not allergies, but I'm going to pose a potential alternative. And I may be wrong because I can't have this dialogue with her, but the potential alternative is, do you live in an area that's really hot? And do you have a dog that's inside AC all the time? And when they go from cold temperatures to outside and hot temperatures to go to the bathroom, is that a potential that maybe that is causing some of the eye draining? Just a thought. Beyond that, I'm really going to go back to my previous response, which is if you know it's an allergy based, just look at the food, look into adding nettle and some quercetin into the diet, build up that microbiome, diversify it as much as possible. And if that doesn't go away that way, then maybe look at doing like a food elimination diet.
Okay. Great. Perfect. All right. We've got one last question here from Dylan. It says, do you have any advice for helping my dog to stop getting them to eat poop?
Okay. So everything our dogs
our favorite thing that our dogs do, right?
Yeah. But listen, it's called coprophagia. And so it's a real thing, right? So a lot of dogs do it. It's gross for a variety of reasons, but everything our dogs do is their way of communicating something to us. So I like to look at it that way because it's easier for me and less disgusting. So if the dog is eating their own poop, it's different than if they're eating another dog's poop. If they're eating
Okay.
all the poop, then that's also something else. So if the dog is eating their own poop, then it's really an indication that their body is not assimilating the nutrients from the food that they're eating. If they're only eating their dog's poop, that's a way that you can tell that you can add some plant-based digestive enzymes. You can add some water. You can water to the food, right? Because again, as I said, the body break it down. The plant-based enzymes are going to help the body kind of absorb those nutrients and break them down. And also work on that microbiome, because if you have a microbiome that is sick, we'll say, right, that isn't very diverse, then it's not going to have the same absorption as it would otherwise. So I would say work on those three things. If you have a dog, on the other hand, that is eating another dog's poop, then we have to start thinking about what is missing from your dog's diet that other dog is defecating, right? So is it potential that they have not only a nutrition, like that their food is void of certain nutrients that the body is starving for? A lot of times I hear that dogs go after cat poop in the litter box. And one of the reasons is because cats are obligate carnivores. And so their food is formulated with a higher animal protein than most canines, which are just carnivores. So it makes sense that they would then be going after a higher protein. So if you have the availability, which I know most of us don't, but if you do know that your dog eats your neighbor's dog's poop, find out what they're feeding them. Find out what the difference is, what the guaranteed analysis is, if there's a higher protein content, if there's a higher fat content, and just kind of try to sleuth through it. And I am also going to say, if your dog is eating another dog's poop, you still want to add like a whole-based vitamin, just to kind of, if there's any deficiency, just kind of bring that back up to a normal level. And then of course, I really think any dog, regardless of the situation, if they're eating poop, eating dirt, having allergies, every animal should have a great probiotic that is rotated into their diet on a regular basis. It is, again, I mentioned this earlier, it is our innate immune system. It's the foundation of our good health. And so you really can't have an animal that's of optimal health if you have a non-diverse microbiome and one that is not up to snuff.
Do you recommend the prebiotic and probiotic, or just the probiotic? What are your thoughts on?
So the prebiotic is the food for the probiotic.
Okay.
Right. So
right.
if you're getting a probiotic and there's no prebiotic, then you're not getting the most for your dollar. So prebiotics come in you can get prebiotics in a variety of different ways. Most probiotics that I know of do have some type of prebiotic built in there.
Okay.
But like I randomly throw in, this is going to sound silly, but I'm an herbalist, so this is what I do. In September, when the plantains, which are weeds, right, which is also a great source of food, my yard has no fertilizers or chemicals or anything. I go out when the stalks are tall and I get the seeds and I dehydrate them and dry them. And then that becomes the prebiotic for my dogs.
Okay.
So I sprinkle that into their food. So you can do some of that. If you don't necessarily have to buy a prebiotic, you can find other ways and kind of just add it to the food if you want.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes,
Perfect.
Yeah. The prebiotics are really necessary for the probiotics to do their work.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Thank you for that. So I think we're about wrapped up, and I'm super excited to have had you here today answering all kinds of really great information. I know I'm going to go back and watch the replay so I can take notes. I'm sure everybody else will be doing the same. This has been great. So if our audience would love to go and learn more, where can they find you or more about Bow Wow Labs?
So you can find us on our website at bowwowlabs.com, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Bow Wow Labs. And we are also starting our new TikTok at Bow Wow Labs. If I can, I just want to steal 2 seconds, because for everyone that's asking us questions, I'd love to help, and I'm glad to be able to answer however I can. But I do want to stress the point that for anyone that gives long-term chews by way of bully sticks to your dogs, they are a choking hazard and the potential for intestinal obstruction. And one of the best things that you can do is go check out our Bow Wow Labs Bully Buddy. This is a safety device. It is not a toy. You put the bully stick inside, you screw it down, and then you can't get the stick out and your dog can. And that's really important from preventing them from chewing on that last 1 inch and then swallowing it. So please go ahead and take a look at this. If you have a dog that doesn't eat bully sticks, but your friends do, check out bowwowlabs.com, because it is one of the most amazing products. It's actually brought bully sticks back into my dog's lives, and they're really happy for it. So,
and we have a link. We have a link in this description, so make it easy for everybody. Yeah.
And it's one of the things that a lot of people don't really think about, because you think of, oh, the bully sticks are a great healthy treat, but they don't think about that choking hazard potential. So it really is important and a real, problem, whether it's choking hazard or obstruction. There's lots of different, and troubles that you get into.
Yeah, there's so many benefits from allowing your dog to chew on bully sticks that if you can provide the bully sticks to your dog in a safe way, that's what matters. But yeah, so that is something that I would recommend everyone go check us out. And we have a code that if you want to get 10% off, just type in PET Health, PETHEALTH, and you'll get 10% off your order for watching us today.
Yay. Thank you, Johnna. That's awesome. I appreciate that. And so not only is that a prize for everybody watching, but we also have a giveaway winner we get to announce. So yay, drum roll, Skyla White, you are the winner for today's giveaway. Yay.
So really quickly, Crunch Puffs are, this is what you're winning. They are a single ingredient, longer type treat. So my dogs go nuts over this, whereas most biscuits give them, first they're flour based and they give them only like a 1-2 crunch. These are single ingredient beef. So it's all protein, mostly protein. And it is going to give them probably like 30 to 45 seconds per chew. So it's really great depending on the size of your dog, of course. But hopefully your dog loves them and you come back for more.
Yay. Congratulations, Skyla. And thank you again for helping us share the love of all the things that we do here at We Heart Hounds. And we just love having Johnna with us. Yeah. She's amazing and all kinds of really good information. Every time we chat with you, we learn something new. So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it. All right, everybody, if you have any other questions, type them in the comments below. Share this with all your friends and family, all your pet fans out there. And then, we'll get answers to any additional questions you might have if you have them. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.